3, 2, 1, you're live.
Hi. Welcome to the first of what we hope to be a three-part session on college student development theory, with the concluding session wrapping with a, like you earn a certificate in completing this staff development. So I think to kick things off, we're going to talk a little bit about like how we came to experience what college student development theory is. I was first exposed to college student development theory. I had to take a class on it as part of my master's program. And so I found it really interesting because even though I wasn't in advising at the time, I was working in a testing center here, but a lot of what we talk about is really applicable to the entire umbrella of student affairs. So
I'll go next.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember which order. I didn't write it down. I got my degree in counseling / student development, I think, in 1987. So my knowledge was from a long time ago, but when we met and Melissa and I started talking, and I've looked, and Susie's in the counseling program now, so I've looked at some of her textbooks. The theorists are all the same from back in the 60s. And the 70s, only newer people have, now you'll see instead of just Chickering, you'll see Chickering and Reiser. Reiser. And so I've kind of updated myself a little bit, but it was really interesting. It's all the same. And some of you that have been here a while know that I've been talking about student development probably about 20 years too, and I think it's exciting to be able to present theory. It's not going to be real, what did you say, Kyron? Dynamic, but we're going to try, but it is theory, and theory equals dry, so.
bear with us.
And my interest in student development theory comes from, like Kim, in working on Melissa. Scratch that for me. Comes from, again, a class I had to take, a student development theory class in my academic advising graduate work, and coming from that. And actually, and on the other end of that, like with Chris, my interest also comes from this, and I've always thought of how we need to bring academic advising in as a established profession. And I think it's theory that's going to help us to do that. A couple of quick stories. When I was taking my first advising class through Kansas State under the tutelage of Charlie Nutt, NACADA was actually calling for an academic advising theory through NACADA, through the NACADA journal. And so if you look at chapter 2 in the advising handbook, they actually have discounted the notion of an overall theory on academic advising. Well, I haven't bought into that yet. I still think that one of these days we're going to come to work, and around the water cooler, the buzz is going to be, did you hear that Jason had a slow night last night on his late night and didn't see any students, and he was just tooling and doodling around, and actually came up with a theory on academic advising. And one of these days, I'm just not giving up on that. And the other story I want to tell, there's this new TV series, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he does this, he's an astrophysicist, and it's a theory that's a take on Carl Sagan's old program. And in that, he was talking a couple of weeks ago about how Einstein's theory of relativity, actually they realized years later that it also explained the notion of black holes. And the question was asked, well, why didn't Einstein explain that back when he rolled out his theory? Well, the answer was, well, you can't think of everything. So that's the way I feel about academic advising. Can't think of everything. We haven't thought of everything yet. And I think eventually somebody's going to come up with a theory on how that ties this whole thing together and how we're going to do that. So that's my interest in theory relative to academic advising. And I think I'm still on.
Yes.
So, and again, over the next few meetings, the three of us are going to be presenting you with some sessions on student development theory and academic advising. We're going to cover the three main categories of theories that lend themselves most to academic advising. I'm going to be talking about psychosocial theory. Chris is going to be talking about cognitive development theory. Melissa is going to be talking to you about typological theories. And in those, we'll be telling you about how these things work and moving through that. And so, then on the second session, we're going to be introducing you to some theorists who have come up with these different theories. And we're going to talk about how those theories apply to us on a day-to-day basis as we practice academic advice from a theoretical standpoint, how theory applies on a day-to-day basis. And so that's pretty much where we're going to be coming from, and that's going to be happening here in the next few advising sessions, either doing our quarterly sessions or our monthly sessions, but we'll get through those.
Okay. I just want to add to what Robert said about advising theory, because I did a lot of research trying to update myself, and the only thing what I found was that the statement is academic advising is examined through student development theory. And there is one researcher out there that is trying really hard to come up with it, but because it's such a broad range, it has to encompass a lot of different theories, and I think that's why it's hard to just make it into one. That's why we picked some of the theories that we think fit the best with it. But we're going to start with an activity, a really dynamic activity. Yeah. What we want you to do is, it's kind of this, write it down, then talk about it, and then we'll talk about it in the large group. So just kind of do this individually. What do you know? What do you think about this? Jot down any notes you might have. And then talk to people around you, and then we will talk about it. Just take about 5 minutes. If you have to leave it all blank, leave it all blank. No, don't do that. I'm giving you a folder because there's going to be a few handouts, and then there'll be a major final at the end of the third session, so you might need these things to review. Not really. And I know we have other experts in the room, so I'm counting on you to add a lot to this discussion.
So there's going to be a test in the end.
Not today, though.
Not sure.
No.
So bear in mind, when I was working on my undergraduate degree at Bellevue, one of my professors, he cautioned us about what we need to know at the end of the test. He says, now, when you see him stomping his foot like a horse, and whatever he's talking about at the time, it gives you an idea that that might be on the test. So when I'm talking about stomping my foot like a horse,
Robert, you want these? when you get done filling out what you think you can fill in, just maybe these first two tables could talk, the back two, you guys can turn around, and then, I don't know, maybe Susan can move back by Terry. Hey, what are you doing? Looking up definitions? No.
Why not?
Because it's what do you know about it, not what does your iPad know.
I wasn't looking that part up.
Well, we gave you a couple clues too to one of these answers. Yeah, talk about them now. Just, the writing part is just going to take a minute or two, just get people thinking, know what we're wanting to talk about.
Definition of examining the process of students progress and mature through their educational journeys. Just off of so I don't know anything about students. Just very I can generate. So how did they miss?
Even the one that I read, first meeting. And then regardless of what
Take about another minute to kind of figure out what you want to say when I call it.
What I had yesterday. He talked about what years.